We're driving through the woods right now, and we're gonna be talking about the 5 trees squirrel hunters need to know. Because the number one thing about killing squirrels is finding their food. And since most of a squirrel's diet is gonna be nuts from nut trees, it's really important, and it's gonna help you a lot if you actually know what those nut trees look like and where to find them. So let's get started right here at number 5. Number 5 being a beech tree. Now here's what the bark looks like, here's what the leaves look like, and here's what the nuts look like. You can see the bark is pretty smooth, the leaves really thin, flat, and just, I don't know, they're interesting shape. But then the nut is kind of furry in a way. And right here we have a really good example. And usually wherever you find one beech tree, you're probably gonna find a bunch, because there's a beech tree there, there's a beech tree there, there's a beech tree there, there. When you find a beech tree, you're probably gonna find a lot of them, which is actually really good because when the squirrels are hammering them, you're gonna be in them. Here are the leaves right there. The branches kind of hang low to the ground. If you're ever driving on a 4-wheeler trail and then it looks like a branch just reach out and slap you in your face, my experience, it's a beech tree. These dudes are low-key kind of mean. But now for the important part, the nut. The nut itself. And here we have a beech nut which hasn't been eaten yet. Kind of a furry little thing, but what you're gonna notice is that they're pretty small. And this actually affects how the squirrels eat them. Because whenever the squirrels are eating beech nuts, they're not going to be sitting still for long. So if you know they're hammering beech nuts, it might be a good idea to pick out a shotgun. Because a squirrel can find a beech nut and chew through it in about, I don't know, 3 seconds, honestly. They can move really fast when they're eating beech nuts. They're not going to sit still. So let's keep moving. Number 5, beech trees. Beech nuts, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Beech tree. Number 4 is going to be a walnut tree. And you can see what the bark looks like, the leaves look like, and the nut looks like. The nuts are stinking huge, dude. They're a walnut. They're like the size of a baseball, maybe a little bit smaller. You can see this right here. This is what the leaves look like. They're like these compounding leaves right there. But then, you can see the walnut right there. Big old things. Big old like baseball sized fruit on there. And here's one down here on the ground so we can take a look at it. But that right there is a walnut, and squirrels love these things. Now for me, around where I live at least, I don't see these as often on the ridge tops and things. Like this one's just here on the edge of this field. I'm not exactly an expert on walnut trees. I don't feel like I have a bunch of them. I know that their wood is worth a lot, so they do get cut down whenever they get big, which kind of stinks, but anyways, if you can find some walnut trees, you can even see where I believe a squirrel's tried to chew into this one a little while ago. And there's a squirrel right there on this walnut tree. There's a squirrel right there. Right there it goes. There goes a squirrel right there jumping off the walnut tree. Well, that worked perfectly. I don't know if you got to see him, but I look up, there's 2 big walnut trees here, and boom, he was moving. But there you go, walnut tree. And now on to number 3. I'm gonna kind of group a few of them together. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in pecan tree in there. Now here's what a pecan tree looks like, but I'm gonna be honest guys, I don't really have pecan trees where I'm from. But that doesn't mean that squirrels don't eat them. At the same number 3, I'm gonna throw in a pine tree. Because depending on where you're at, this may be the best food the squirrels have. And depending on your exact species of pine tree, squirrels may like them more or less. Basically what number 3 is it also depends on your area, depending on what kind of trees you have. But also squirrels are pretty opportunistic. They like to eat. There's a lot of them. And these top 5 trees are not the only trees squirrels eat. Squirrels love all kinds of trees, all kinds of nuts, all kinds of flowers. And depending on where you're from, the order may be different. And I would even go as far to say that this order isn't even an actual order. It just depends on which nut is palatable at each time of the year. They could literally be on beech trees one week, and then the very next week be on hickory nuts, and then the very next week be on oaks. Like the squirrels will move around to whichever tree they want at the moment. And it usually comes down to which one is ripe, I guess, however nuts get ripe. And right now where I live, they're actually hitting tree number 2 right now, so let's ride on over to tree number 2. Let's take a look. We may even see a squirrel. Number 2 stands pretty tall, pretty strong. We're talking oak trees. Now there is a lot of different kind of oak trees, and I like a lot of different kind of oak trees, but in general, here's what the trees look like. They're big, tall, and strong. Here's what the leaves look like. There's a bunch of different shapes and weird shapes here and there with the leaves. But then here's what their nut looks like. It's an acorn. Now, each species looks a little bit different, but squirrels like most of them. This big, tall, strong fella right here happens to be a, let me see. I gotta look closely at these leaves to find out. It is a white oak, which is actually one of their favorites. And as we look down on the ground, you'll see this part of an acorn. Right here's the other piece that's already been tore into. That right there is a good sign, guys. That's a white oak. And when you see fresh green acorns on the ground chewed up, That's how you really know it's that time. And like I was saying, right now for us is that time. There's an acorn, but it's been chewed into a little bit. Maybe by a squirrel, maybe not. Not quite sure. But right now in my area, the white oaks are dominant. And there's a bunch of other oaks. There's red oaks, which squirrels don't like as much as white oaks. Then you've also got like pin oaks and live oaks down south of America. Not South America, that's different. But as a general rule of thumb, they do seem to like white oaks the best. And they're really tall trees. And here's what the leaves look like of a white oak. Here's a little quick tip. You see how the leaves are kind of rounded on the edges? That's a white oak family. Then there's the red oak family, which look like this. You can see the difference. Those are really pointy. Those are red oaks. Typically, squirrels are going to like white oaks the best. If I was you, I'd learn about the white oak because white oaks are also one of the deer's favorite foods. And if you like to hunt deer, then this is a really good tree to know. But now, moving on to the number one tree you need to know. And like I mentioned earlier, these aren't really in an order because squirrels love them all. But the other one is going to be a hickory tree. And they have hickory nuts. Well, let's go find some. See that tree right there? That's a big oak. That's not what we're talking about as number one, but I just want to let you know. Usually with squirrels, overall, as a general rule of thumb, if you see big, strong trees that just branch out, it's usually a good place to look. Because much like oak trees, a lot of hickory trees also look really big and strong. And I don't know if you can tell much about that tree right there, but that is actually a hickory tree. This is what the bark looks like. It can be easily confused, I think, with an oak tree, but the hickory trees usually have like little X's in them almost in the bark. Here's the leaves. They're very different. They kind of compound more. Instead of like that one leaf, it's kind of like a leaf that has multiple on it. And then here's what the nuts look like. They're actually pretty big. They're about the size of a $50. Looking on the ground, this is what the ground will look like under a hickory tree. And it's going to be a bunch of chips, just like this right here. A bunch of chips. And whenever you see these little chips that are green, that is prime time. But looking around on the ground right now, all I'm seeing is old time. Like you can see all these little chips, but they're all brown. That means they're from last year. So, although this is my number one squirrel hunting tree, this is actually literally my number one squirrel hunting tree. Like I've killed a lot of squirrels off this exact tree right here. But looking on the ground, I'm not seeing a single recent live nut. They're all old. But, no doubt in my mind, in about 2 or 3 weeks, this will be the place squirrels will be. And another really cool thing about hickory nuts, which at the same time, there's a bunch of different species, just like the oaks. They're all a little bit different here and there, but what I really like about oaks is that they're really fun to hunt. Because the squirrels sit there on top of them and they scratch. And they'll sit in the same spot scratching on one nut for a few minutes, which actually makes them sit still, and it'll sound like it's raining because they're just chewing a little piece, dropping it, 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 and they'll do that for like minutes. And then they'll just hop to another limb and do it again. So it's really fun to hunt hickory trees, and I think that's why they're number one on my list. That may not necessarily be the squirrel's favorite, but I don't know, it probably is squirrel's favorite. They love hickory nuts when it's time for them. But here's the whole thing. If you know these trees and you know where some are located, it's going to make your job squirrel hunting a lot easier because you kind of know points of interest. Hey, I can go here, I can see this tree, then I can turn, there's another tree, there's another tree, there's another tree of interest. And then once you have a bunch in the back of your head and their locations, if you know they're hitting on hickory nuts, then you can kind of jump around to the different hickory nuts, you know where they are. And if you're just learning, use Google because you can like take a picture of a nut or take a picture of a leaf, sometimes even the bark, put it into Google and it'll like tell you what it is. So you can use that as a tool. If you notice there's squirrels piddling around in a tree, take interest in that tree because one of the squirrel's most favorite trees in your area may not even been on my list. But if you see squirrels, it's a good sign. You're in the right spot. If you want to see shotgun versus 22, which one I think's better for squirrel hunting, click right over here, or right down here for right over here for how to early season squirrel hunt.